Hello, in this video I'm going to talk about strangulation, or choking as it's sometimes called. And that's in relation to Gabby Petito, who the autopsy has revealed that she was strangled to death. It's a very depressing topic to talk about on a Saturday morning, but I think it's an important one. According to recent studies, women who survive strangulation are up to 7 times more likely to be killed by their partner in the future. Beacon of Hope is a domestic violence organisation in the States, and their spokesperson Jackie Bowman said in December of 2020 that strangulation in a domestic violence situation was up 212% in that past year. It could be that Brian had put his hands around Gabby's neck in the past. But if Brian did murder Gabby, and if this was the first time he put his hands around her throat and choked her, then you can see how this escalated from his hand being in this position, grabbing her face, to him putting his hands around her neck. So when I say that, I don't mean at the same time, that he started there and then he moved his hands down. I mean that the first position was accepted by her, and it was accepted by her because she stayed with him. And it was also accepted by the police because they did nothing about it. He wasn't in any trouble with them. And so he's learned that that's okay. He's become more entitled now. And so it seems that his behaviour escalated from this, having one hand gripping her face, to strangling her. So can you see how this, what I called a violent act in a previous video, is a lot more than it might seem to be on the surface? It's not about the fact that she had a bruise and a cut on her face from it, and that, that must have been painful. It's about the fact that he got away with doing that. And that in doing that and in getting away with it, he learned that now he had the green light to take another step. If you stay in a relationship after somebody has done something violent, whether that's pushing you into something, or whether it's hitting you or slapping you or grabbing your face or grabbing any part of you in that kind of way, in an aggressive way, if you allow that by staying in the relationship, and you are allowing it, it doesn't matter how many times you tell the person they must never do it again, the fact that you still stay with them in that relationship shows them that they're allowed to do it. And if they can, why won't they take the next step? That's how their minds work. These acts are not about losing control so much as gaining control over you. That's the whole intention behind them. It's to be in control of you and of your emotions. And the more violent it gets, the more they're in control of you physically and your life. So if you stop someone from breathing, well, that's the most control you can have over a person. Most of the time, abusers who do that are not actually trying to kill their victim. They're trying to show them that they can kill them. They're trying to be in control and to show the other person how powerless they are and how powerful the abuser is. And that in itself can have a huge impact on the person who's been strangled, because they can have PTSD from that event. When an abuser shows their partner that they have full control over them and that they have all the power and the other person has no power, what they're doing is they're validating this false self, this person who's above other people. So it's a really entitled way to behave, obviously, to feel entitled enough to take away someone's breath. And to nearly kill them, because that's what it is. If somebody has ever done that to you or ever does in the future, it's not that, okay, it got a bit out of hand, it was it was violent and shouldn't have been like that, but never mind, I'm okay. It's not like that. It really is on the way to death. Whenever they stop, it's on your way to being murdered. That's what you've experienced. So it should be taken really seriously. And if somebody does that to you, you should never give them the opportunity to repeat it. Because when somebody feels that entitled to do it in the first place, and when that entitlement, that sense of entitlement gets validated in that way, then they get braver. You know, they think they're entitled to even more, and that's why it can lead to murder. Strangulation is very intimate, so it can often suggest that it's down to domestic violence in a relationship with a partner. It usually happens when the couple have been together for a long time, so it's not something that usually happens in the early days of a relationship or the early weeks or even months. But people can confuse intimacy with loving someone so much that, you know, you lose control when you're jealous, or you get upset because things aren't going well and you get angry because of how much you love them. That's not how it works. That's not how any abusive situation works. That's a myth, you know. That's the last thing that love is about. And strangulation is all about control. It's all about trying to have power over somebody else. You can't always see damage on someone's neck, but a lot of damage can go on inside the body. And not only physical damage that can later kill you, you know, a result of not getting enough oxygen to the brain can leave you a bit brain damaged in the future. You know, there's so many different things that can happen internally. And if somebody strangles somebody else, it's likely that they have been trying to assert their authority and have power over that other person in many other ways before it gets to that point. Somebody who behaves like that is not going to one day become someone who doesn't need that control and who doesn't feel entitled. So it's not going to change, it's only going to get worse. They're not going to necessarily murder their partner in the same way, so they won't necessarily later strangle them to death. They might shoot them. They're 7.5 times more likely to shoot their partner, and that was a US study. So I don't imagine that's the case for Europe, because it'd be harder to get hold of a gun. But nevertheless, there are obviously other ways to kill somebody, and that's what this does. You know, a lot of people who go on to be serial killers started off with strangling somebody, so they can then end up killing people in other ways. But in terms of Brian Laundrie, if he did strangle Gabby, which, you know, I think everyone is thinking seems pretty likely, then that's something he did intentionally, because it took so long. Within 10 seconds, someone is usually going to be unconscious when they're being strangled, and it takes minutes for them to die. Other ways to kill someone can be really spontaneous and quick, and, you know, it can be one move that you make and then they're dead. Sometimes it can be accidental, but with strangulation, it takes a long time. And first of all, the person is unconscious, and that will last for minutes. So the person is showing no resistance, they have no power. So to continue to strangle them, that shows that that's the intention, is to kill them. Look out for behaviour that's violent without it being violent towards you. So if they bang something really loudly to scare you, for example, if they throw something at the wall and it doesn't hit you and it wasn't even aimed at you, these are all red flags. These are all warning signs that the person is testing to see if they can get away with violent behaviour. So I'm going to leave it here. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.